We want to show you pictures released this evening by the Office of Representative Gabrielle Giffords. Her husband, U.S. Navy Captain Mark Kelly, holds her hand inside the hospital room where she is recovering from a gunshot wound to the head. The suspected gunman, 22-year-old Jared Loeffner, remarkably, Giffords' doctors say she is doing well. How is that possible? Here's Bob Woodruff, who brings to the story his own incredible tale of survival.
Was somebody shot then, sir?
Yes, the guy looked like the guy had a semi-automatic pistol. He went in, he just started firing.
Just after 10 o'clock in the morning, 22-year-old Jared Loeffner walked straight towards Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and shot her point blank in the head.
He comes out around, he goes immediately up to her, fires the first shot.
He killed 6 others in his rampage, but his target was still fighting for her life.
Is anybody injured? Did you say Gabrielle Giffords was hit?
She's hit.
Okay.
I believe she's breathing.
Her story is now one of survival against all odds. As she was airlifted to Tucson's University Medical Center, doctors were preparing for the worst.
Most of the people who get shot in the head don't come here. They're already dead.
In 38 minutes, she was on the operating table. Her surgeon, Dr. Michael Lamole.
I was a little bit skeptical when the trauma team told me, because of course they assessed her before I did, that she was actually following commands before surgery, because her injury seemed too severe for that.
The bullet had penetrated the brain, entering in her forehead and exiting the back. Her survival is nothing short of a miracle. Just hours later,
I'm about as optimistic as it can get in this situation.
in newly released photos, her husband is shown at Giffords' bedside. Today, her medical team said for the first time that she's out of the coma and resuming her basic motor functions.
There are other little things that are coming out now that we've just seen today, for example, scratching her nose. But think about it, scratching your nose, your brain basically has to say, I have an itch. It bothers me here. I'm going to move my hand up there and scratch exactly at this point.
She's able to breathe on her own, and the tube may come out any time now. Her chances of survival are high. But what kind of life will she lead?
When we finally got into Iraq, in Iraq.
Miracle is a word that has been used to describe my recovery. Nearly 5 years ago, my life hung on the line after our ABC News team was struck by a roadside bomb in Iraq. Doctors told my wife, Lee, I would be lucky to live and might not ever be the same again.
You want to see that there's a nice over here? There's like a lot of piles and stuff.
But thankfully, they were wrong. After 36 days, I woke up. It took many months, but I slowly was learning how to walk, speak, and even recognize my family and friends.
Belt buckle.
Belt burl.
Belt buckle.
Belt buckle.
I was searching for every word that I could remember. These were promising signs.
Hammer.
Yep.
Hammer. H-A-M-O-R. Hammer. H-A-M-M-E-R.
And I'm not the only one.
Dust particles started to fall from the ceiling and the ground was shaking. That's when we knew it was pretty real.
It was April 20th, 1999 in Littleton, Colorado. Pat Ireland was a junior in high school.
My head, it came above the table just maybe an inch or two. And as soon as I did that, the gunman saw me off from a distance, and that's when I was hit. I was shot twice in the head and once in the foot.
The Columbine Massacre horrified and changed a nation. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris killed 13 and injured 24. Patrick Ireland was shot 3 times. With 2 bullets in his head and paralyzed on one side, he found the strength to escape out the window.
The SWAT team shouted at me from a distance to stay there and to hang on, and they would come get me.
The image of his escape played out for the whole world to watch. He was rushed to the hospital.
When I was in the ambulance, there was a number of times where they were just, asking me question after question about who I was, what my name was, if I could remember my parents' names.
Emergency surgery to save his life lasted for hours. They removed a bullet in his forehead, but the other was deeply lodged in the left half of his brain, so they left it there. His parents were told he might never walk or talk again.
Here is Pat working with Sarah.
But soon, he was proving them wrong.
The brain is really an amazing thing, and the fact that it was able to recreate a lot of those pathways I was very fortunate.
He had to learn not only how to walk, but to talk and write over months of rehabilitation. Neurosurgeon Arthur Cobrain also knows miracles.
I was a staff physician at GW at the time, and I was reviewing x-rays, and my beeper went off.
That was March 1981, the day that gunman John Hinckley shot President Reagan and his press secretary Jim Brady as they were leaving the Washington Hilton. Dr. Cobrain treated Brady.
His entrance wound was right through his left eyebrow. There was a little gauze over it. I took that piece of gauze off, and brain came out like if you squeezed toothpaste. I instinctively put the gauze back on, thought this is not good. I didn't think he had much of a chance to survive.
The bullet that had struck Brady above his left eye had scattered in the right side of his head. His injuries were far worse than Congresswoman Gifford's.
The Congresswoman's bullet only affected one hemisphere. Jim's affected both hemispheres. That's a far worse injury to affect both hemispheres.
And just a couple of weeks later,
he woke up, which surprised all of us. There are people who do better than anyone would expect from such an event. So it's hard to predict. You just have to kind of see where it goes.
9 months of complicated rehabilitation followed. He stayed paralyzed on one side and still speaks with a slur, but he pulled through. Tonight, Congresswoman Giffords has made it through the first 3 critical days.
She has no right to look this good, and she does. We're hopeful.
And while they say it's too soon to predict what happens when Giffords wakes up, it doesn't take a miracle to picture her recovery.
What will be, and she's going to work as hard as she needs to get where she has to go.
Still, there are many questions. Giffords is right-handed, so her injured left brain likely controls comprehension and language. But the fact that she's responding is a good sign. And there's a lot we don't know about the capacity of the brain to adapt and take over the functions of a damaged area.
It's like getting up and learning to ride a bicycle again. Think about the first time you had to ride a bicycle. Your brain was wildly forming new connections and paring them down. And I think it's no different when you're trying to relearn that after a brain injury.
Phone for making a cut. Are those scissors?
Looking back at my recovery, I was able to relearn most of those words that were lost.
Pill bottle. Candle.
Of course, my memory isn't exactly what it used to be, but my kids have said I love them even more than before.
Oh, it's so great to be home!
Jim Brady went back to work 19 months after he was shot.
Hi, Tim. This is Jim Brady.
Now at 70, he is still fighting for stricter gun control laws.
I feel really fortunate to be in the position that I'm in now. Through everything that had happened, I probably wouldn't have gone to the school that I went to, and as a result, I probably wouldn't have met my wife, and probably wouldn't have gone into the career that I went into.
Pat is a managing director working in finance. He and his wife Casey have an 8-month-old little girl. He says if his past is any indication, Giffords has a good chance of recovery.
I'm sure that her demeanor and the type of person that she is, that she will continue to be a hard worker and get through this.
If anyone can believe, those of us who have been through it do. This is Bob Woodruff for Nightline.